It wasn't a coordinated search that found them, it was pure luck. A Navy pilot on a routine anti-submarine patrol happened to look down and see an oil slick. Upon closer inspection, he realized the debris was actually hundreds of men waving for help. He was so horrified by the sight of the sharks attacking the survivors that he defied orders and landed his plane in the open ocean to pull the most wounded men onto his wings. The rescue ships finally arrived, but for many, it was too late. Out of the 1,195 men who sailed on the Indianapolis, only 316 survived the ordeal. Nearly 600 men had died in the water, victims of the elements and the sharks. The captain, Charles McVeigh, survived but was later court-martialed for losing his ship, a controversial move that many saw as the Navy looking for a scapegoat to cover up their failure to track the vessel. It took decades for him to be exonerated. The sinking of the USS Indianapolis remains a harrowing reminder of the brutality of war and nature. If this story sent shivers down your spine, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a deep dive into history's darkest secrets. As the sun rose on the first day, the survivors faced dehydration and exposure, but then the sharks arrived. The explosions and the scent of blood had drawn a massive school of oceanic white-tip sharks, one of the most aggressive species in the ocean. At first, the sharks focused on the dead bodies floating in the water, but soon, they turned their attention to the living. The soldiers formed tight circles, huddled together in fear, trying to kick and splash to scare the predators away. But the sharks were relentless. For 4 days and 5 nights, the men drifted in a cycle of pure terror. Every scream meant another shipmate had been dragged under. The water turned red around them. The psychological toll was even worse than the physical pain. Men began to hallucinate from drinking salt water, seeing islands that weren't there or believing the ship was just beneath them with fresh water. Madness set in. Friends turned on friends in delirious fights, only to be picked off by the circling shadows. It was a slow-motion massacre. The silence of the ocean was broken only by the splashes of fins and the cries of men disappearing into the depths. They were being eaten alive, one by one, while the rest of the world went on unaware of their agony. This is the story of the worst naval disaster in United States history, a nightmare so terrifying that it inspired the most chilling monologue in the movie Jaws. In July 1945, the heavy cruiser USS Indianapolis was given a top-secret mission that would change the course of the world. Her cargo was the components for Little Boy, the atomic bomb that would later be dropped on Hiroshima. Because the mission was so classified, the ship sailed alone, without a destroyer escort, to the island of Tinian. They delivered the bomb successfully, effectively sealing the fate of World War II, but their own fate was just beginning. On the return journey to the Philippines, catastrophe struck. Just after midnight on July 30th, a Japanese submarine fired 2 torpedoes that slammed into the Indianapolis. The explosions were devastating. The ship, massive as it was torn open and sank in just 12 minutes. Of the 1,195 men on board, about 300 went down with the ship. But for the 900 men who made it into the water, the true horror was not the sinking ship or the burning oil slicks. It was what was waiting for them beneath the surface. Because of the extreme secrecy of their mission, no distress signal was confirmed received. No one knew they were missing. They were alone in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, bobbing in life jackets, waiting for a rescue that wasn't coming.